Welcome to Judicial Dollars and Cents, brought to you by Anders Virtual CFO Services team from all across the United States. I'm John Scott, and in each episode, we'll shine a light on the financial side of the legal world, turning law firm numbers into impact-driven stories. From taxes and profitability to practice growth and leadership, we sit down with law firm innovators who are shaping the future of the profession. Let's dive in, right here on Judicial Dollars and Cents. Hey, and welcome back to Judicial Dollars and Cents, where the business of law meets the practice of law. I'm John Scott with Anders Virtual CFO Services for law firms, and each week we sit down with successful attorneys, legal innovators, and business leaders to explore what it really takes to build a thriving firm. We go beyond the courtroom to discuss leadership, profitability, operations, marketing, technology, AI, and strategies that help firms grow, scale, and create lasting value. Whether you are a managing partner, an emerging firm leader, or someone who is passionate about the future of the legal profession, our goal is to provide practical insights that you can put to work immediately. Today, we are pleased to welcome Stephen A. Weisberg, founder and lead tax attorney of the W Tax Group in Southfield, Michigan. Stephen has devoted more than a decade of representing individuals and businesses facing the IRS and state tax controversies. His practice helps clients address tax liens, levies, wage garnishments, unfiled returns, payroll tax liabilities, installment agreements, offers in compromise, penalty abatements, and other serious collection matters. The W Tax Group represents taxpayers throughout all 50 states and positions itself as an attorney-led tax resolution practice focused on personalized service, strategic negotiation, and helping clients regain financial stability. Before entering tax controversy work, Stephen practiced corporate bankruptcy during the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis. That experience ultimately led him away from representing large corporate interests toward helping entrepreneurs, small business owners, and individuals resolve overwhelming financial problems. Stephen earned his undergraduate degree in psychology from the University of Michigan and his law degree from Loyola University Chicago School of Law. He's a member of the State Bar of Michigan and has been recognized by super lawyers as a rising star. Stephen, welcome to Judicial Dollars and Cents.
Thank you. Appreciate the intro, and I'm happy to be here.
You know, I love to hear people's origin stories. So how do you come from University of Michigan with a psychology degree to law school and then ultimately to practicing tax controversy work?
Well, I went to the University of Michigan. I actually always knew I was going to go to law school. And I think a lot of people go political science or something like that. And I've always enjoyed psychology and understanding people and where they're coming from and why they're doing the things they're doing. So I actually always knew that I was going to go to law school. So that's kind of, where it went from the psychology to law school. I always knew I was going to do that. There was nothing specific that, moved me from psychology to law school. But after law school, and you kind of touched on this, I was, I'm from Detroit, suburban Detroit here. And I graduated law school in 2008, which everyone probably knows was not a very good time in the United States or generally, but especially in Detroit, it was very bad. Although many of our companies had already gone out of business, but still, 2008 was not great. And I was representing, I was in corporate bankruptcy, so I was representing large suppliers that were going out of business. A lot of them, and at the end of the day, in corporate bankruptcy, when you finish a bankruptcy plan, a lot of the unsecured creditors get very little money. So in my case, the big three autos, Chrysler, GM, and Ford, they all had secured claims with the suppliers. So they would get paid in full, and everyone else would get paid in one case 1 cent on the dollar. So they literally were getting almost nothing. And so for me, I like the car companies. They do a lot of good things for Detroit and for America in general. But I didn't it wasn't satisfying to just be working for them. I'd be working on a case for 2 years, and like I said, the big three auto companies would get paid in full, and then everyone else would get paid nothing. So you have all these mom and pop businesses, and some of them larger than that, but small businesses, mom and pop, who are getting paid nothing, and it was not satisfying at all. So from there, I just knew I wanted to do something different, and that wasn't what I wanted to do. And the tax controversy aspect, really, there's nothing crazy that happened that got me to tax controversy, but I was already kind of in that space of helping people who were in distressed times with their business or themselves financially. And I had a friend who was working at a firm that did tax controversy work, and so that's where I ended up, and I learned the business there. And then from there, I opened up my own shop about 10 years ago.
I love the tax controversy work that you're doing, and I love the fact that you're working in all 50 states and scaling this, because really, unless you do a high volume of what you do, it's tough to really do it well. I mean, I've done some offers and compromise, and in my former career, I was tax part at a CPA firm. We still have a large tax practice, and penalty abatement letters are not a big deal. I mean, I have a template letter, and I can put in some wording and phrasing that will usually get the penalty abated. But when you get to bigger tax controversies, in order to be really good at it, you have to do it on a regular basis all the time. I mean, there are specific rules in OICs that, what the IRS is going to accept and what they're not going to accept. So how did you take it from the one location to expanding? Was it just a need for additional work, or how'd you do that? What was that thought process like?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, one of the reasons that I felt good about this area of law and the business model was that I could help people, across the country. So, I knew that from the beginning. It opened it up for more people that I could help and more opportunities. So it wasn't like a specific, one shop and then I moved it to, different places. I was always aware that I would be able to do this, and it felt like a good business opportunity, but also an opportunity to help a lot of people.
So you don't have any other physical locations other than Michigan, correct?
Correct.
Or
yep.
do you have other offices?
No, we have just
you can do all this work, and you can do this work all remotely. How do you get clients from all 50 states? Is it online advertising? How do you do it?
So we do online advertising. We had done a lot with Google Ads, but that's really become oversaturated. And I guess if I could give a tip for people who are doing advertising, Facebook has turned out to be extremely lucrative for us on the advertising side. But apart from that, I have a lot of relationships with CPAs and accountants and bankruptcy attorneys, and so I get referrals from them because as you kind of mentioned, especially like accountants, they know how to do what they know how to do, but they don't know how to do collections and tax controversy work. So they're happy to send that to me because either they don't know how to do it or they don't want to do it and deal with the IRS. So that's where I get another portion of the work that I do.
I tell my wife that all the time, that the world is built on specialization, and I do what I do very well. And if the garbage disposal needs to be replaced, I can fix it, but it's going to take me 4 times as long, and there's going to be a lot of cursing and mashing of knuckles. I'd rather hire the guy that can really do it well. So that's exactly. A plug for hiring you to do tax controversy work.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the service. I mean, if you were king for a day, what would you do to fix the IRS?
Oh. What would I do to fix the IRS? I think, first of all, there's so much wrong with the IRS that I couldn't give you one thing. But ideally, they would have enough resources to put together a concrete plan and systems that will work effectively and efficiently. The problem is either they don't have the resources, or even when they do, you've just got a government entity that is not effective and not efficient, and they can't put together plans that actually work. So from both ends, you have an issue with the IRS where they can't do things well. And so again, it would be giving them enough resources and somehow putting a plan together that they could actually abide by and put things in place to be efficient. And that doesn't seem to be something that they're good at.
Yeah, I do think they need more resources. And my last two audits, which were both successful for the taxpayer, one was the auditor was on his fourth career. He had been a teacher. He had sold encyclopedias door to door. He had done something else. And then he took a few accounting classes, got his accounting degree, and went to work as an auditor for the IRS. And I basically had to teach him the parts of the law on which he was auditing us. And the other was a young lady who had been there a few years, but she was auditing passive activity loss rules for real estate under 469. And I had to teach her the regulations under 469. And I really had to push her to push this upward because she wasn't understanding that my guy was a real estate professional. And there was a little jealousy there. My guy had inherited some money and had wealth, family wealth. And she just couldn't understand why he would do what he's doing. I'm like, because he cares about the community. And you can't tell me he's not a real estate professional. We prevail, but it is extremely frustrating dealing with people who just aren't trained to the level that they need to be trained. And in order to get those folks, they're going to have to pay more. But I don't know that I'm willing to invest more in the IRS until they fix their systems and fix their attitude of the people that, I mean, you can call a taxpayer advocate and get someone that cares, but calling any other line that you're probably going to get hung up on. And don't get me started with the POA that you're really signing at the bottom of the return as a preparer. And then when you call to deal with an issue or a notice, they're like, well, we need a POA. I'm like, this just adds complexity to the whole situation. Let's talk about AI. Are you incorporating any parts of AI in practice to take some of the mundane routine tasks?
I am not right. Well, I take that back. I am. It's just, it's new. So things that I've been doing forever are now changing a little bit. But in terms of like the mundane, I wouldn't say mundane, but in terms of getting things out that I have to do on a daily basis, especially analyzing transcripts from the IRS and what they're saying and what they're indicating, and where they are on enforcement for any particular taxpayer and how much is owed. And you can look at account transcripts that will give you each and every time something happened within the IRS internally. They issued a notice or made some determination. That's all within the IRS transcript. So at this point, I can get the transcripts from the IRS, and I can, talk to Claude and say, hey, take a look at, what we have here in terms of these transcripts, and basically, break this down for me and give me an in-depth review of what's going on in this case. And certainly you have to massage it and make sure that it understands what you want, and you have to give it very, very clear instructions, but it makes it very, very much more efficient, I should say, and fast for them to analyze those transcripts as opposed to myself analyzing it manually.
I love that use case and helping you be more efficient in getting to a solution for the client. So your clients are already in a bad situation. They've either got unfiled returns or they have this large assessment that you're trying to work through and get negotiated down. How do you charge for what you do? And do you get money up front? Because really, they don't have an unlimited amount of cash. I mean, how do you protect yourself, and how do you charge for what you do?
Yeah. I always do a flat fee. I don't.
Do you get retainers?
Yeah. Well, I always do a flat fee, and I don't do any hourly work. So it's not technically a retainer, but in terms of the flat fee, I I try to get as much upfront as possible, but I understand that these people, small business owners, even just individuals that are having a problem, they don't have a ton of money at their disposal, or things would probably be much easier for them. So I try to get as much upfront as possible, but I do allow them to pay over time. I give them some, over on a monthly basis, so I'm financing them a little bit, and I do my best to kind of do the work while they're paying me. I certainly can't put all the work off until they paid the entire amount, but I keep a good happy medium between me and the client in terms of the work that I'm doing and making sure they're paying timely, and making sure we're not having any issues there. So certainly there are times when we don't get paid the full amount at the end of the day. But I think surprisingly, it happens less so than you might think.
So you get a lot of your work from other professionals, other CPAs, other attorneys that don't do what you do. How do you protect the CPA client relationship? Do you work in tandem with the other professionals? And is there privilege when the client hires you directly to obtain that privilege?
So when I have a accountant or other professional, first of all, yes, I do work in tandem with the professional, and that's one of the things that I talk about a lot with my referral partners and the other professionals I work with. As you indicated, I only do tax controversy work. I don't do anything else. We do some tax preparation, just because we have certain clients that maybe don't have somewhere to go for accounting purposes. But we're really not doing advisory. We're not doing anything else. And honestly, I'd rather not do the tax prep work and let some of my referral partners do that. So the thing I just tell my referral partners is, I'm doing one thing for your client. I'm helping them resolve tax controversy work, but these clients always stay yours. They're not my clients, except for the sole purpose of helping them with the tax controversy work. And if there is tax preparation that needs to be done and/or advisory, that's what you're going to be doing as their accountant or CPA.
That's great. Let's talk about your intake process. So, and I want to focus on conversion. So you get a lot of calls. Some of those calls are just tire kickers. Some are really qualified leads. Do you track how many of those qualified leads convert to actual client matters?
Yeah, we do track. And for me, sorry about that. For me, I have another partner in this firm who is more involved on the sales side, if you want to call it that, leads, than I am. So he actually would know much more about those numbers than I do. But yes, we track all of those leads that come in. We determine, what percentage are turning into a good lead, and we're turning into something where we're actually getting someone who's going to come on board and be a good client for us. You have to do that. Otherwise, you could be getting hundreds of calls, and if none of them turn into a client, that ad is not going to be worth, it's not going to be worth it.
Yeah, you have to be able to judge the return on investment for your advertising spend. So there's tons of different things that you could do for a client depending on their situation. And I know you said you do flat fees.
Yeah.
Fixed fees. How do you determine what the fee is for the service? Is that just gut feel, or do you go based on historical time spent?
It comes with doing this for a long time. You kind of get a sense for how long it's going to take for different outcomes. I mean, certainly there's unique outcomes that happen all the time, but in terms of the resolutions are straightforward in that there's only so many resolutions and outcomes that can happen. when someone has a tax debt. It's going to be some sort of payment plan, an installment agreement. But there's multiple different types of payment plans. There's what's called like a partial pay installment agreement, where they would pay on a monthly basis, but they would never end up paying off the total amount of the debt because the IRS only has a certain amount of time to collect from them. Then there's the offer in compromise. Then there's penalty abatement, and then there's innocent spouse relief. But I can probably put it in a box of maybe 8 to 9 things or type of service that I'm going to be providing. So I have an understanding of how long those things are going to take. But, sometimes I undersell it and it takes longer, but that's okay. I really am a fan of the flat fee model as opposed to hourly.
I don't get worked up if on one matter you have more time in than you got paid for, because I know over time, if your flat fee is accurately priced, you're going to be above and below that price line and you're going to be okay in the end. Do you track time in order to job cost those flat fees?
I don't actually, and it might be something that I should be doing, but I don't track time. I have a pretty good sense and feeling for, like I said, the things that I offer, and just from historical purposes, I have a good feeling of how long things are taking. But I think, like you said, I know it's going to be a little bit one way or the other, and it's going to come out even. And that's just from historical, a review of what we've done.
Well, you're not alone in attorneys who do flat fee and not wanting to track time, and I get it. I hate tracking time as well. We do what we do for firms on a subscription basis, which is really a flat fee paid over 52 weeks.
Yeah,
is the same matter, but we do track our time. Not that anybody would ever see a bill that had rate times hour on it, but we do it to judge our flat fees and whether or not they're accurately set. So I'm wondering, do you forecast? The rev forecasting would be number of qualified calls that come in times the conversion rate to flat fee. Is that the theory behind your forecasting?
So you cut out a little bit there. Can you repeat the question for me?
Well, I'm wondering about forecasting. It seems to me that the revenue drivers would be the number of qualified calls that come in times the conversion rate times the flat fee based on type of case. And it ought to.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely do track that. In terms of the flat fee, I always do that based on time. I always make sure that whatever my hourly amount would be normally, I take a look at that and say, how much time am I going to need in order to provide the services that I need to provide, and I don't. We're cutting out a little bit, so I don't know if I'm completely answering your question, but in terms of the time that it takes me, I just make sure that I'm able to do the best service possible, and I find that much better than a hourly basis where you're kind of incentivized to take more time. With the flat fee, I just feel much more comfortable being able to give the taxpayer the services that they need and not have to worry about the time. But certainly what you're talking about in terms of the lead cost multiplied by the amount of leads that come in, and then what the conversion rate is, I mean, that definitely certainly comes into account, especially on the lead side.
Yeah, and I know clients love fixed fees too, right? Because they know they can pick up the phone and call you and they're not turning the clock on. Hey, before we wrap up, I want to move kind of off the wall and talk about Michigan football. I know you're a Michigan football fan.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of things going on there, lots of success. Harbaugh left, controversy. Given the current team, what's the over-under on their record this year, and will you beat Ohio State?
Well,
please do. Please do. We all hate Ryan Day.
Okay, there you go. Perfect. I like that. Yes, we will beat Ohio State because we have to. That's what the whole season is based on. No matter what's happening the rest of the year, success is determined by whether we beat Ohio State. We got a new coach. So I don't know how that's going to go. New coaches can go a lot of different ways. That first year is usually tough because of transfers and new coaching there. I think they'll have 10 wins, and I think they'll play well, and we'll be moving in the right direction. But look, I wasn't sure I'd ever get a national championship in my lifetime after 97. And after getting one in 2023, not even 5 years later, I'm okay with whatever they do. As long as we're, trying hard and moving in the right direction, I'm okay with it. I got my championship.
Well, that's great. And we're a little more than a month away from football being back. I love college football. I love professional football too, but can't wait for it to be back. Hey, Stephen, before we wrap up, what's the best way for people to find you and your firm?
Well, a couple different ways. First of all, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So, you're able to find me on LinkedIn. Just type in my name. I provide a lot of content there, and you can certainly just send me a direct message there. But also, I have a website that's just for me personally, where you can kind of, as opposed to just going to the firm website, the website for me personally is Weisberg.tax. So it's Weisberg.tax. And then the firm website is wtaxattorney.com.
Stephen, thank you so much for joining us and helping our listeners better understand both legal and human sides of resolving serious tax problems. And thank you all for listening to Judicial Dollars and Cents, where the business of law meets the practice of law. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, follow, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Better yet, share this episode with a law firm owner, CPA, or business advisor who could benefit from Stephen's insights. Our mission is simple: to help law firm owners build stronger businesses, deliver exceptional client experiences, and create firms that thrive for generations. I'm John Scott with Anders Virtual CFO Services for law firms, and we'll see you next time on Judicial Dollars and Cents. Thanks for joining us on Judicial Dollars and Cents, presented by Anders Virtual CFO Services. If you found value in today's conversation, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. To learn more about how Anders helps law firms strengthen their financial foundations and drive growth, visit anderscpa.com. Until next time, keep making smart decisions that make perfect sense.